Being able to preserve natural resources is very costly, but losing them is even more costly.
A great injustice was done many years ago because the military took over that land, condemned it, removed families that were living there, and then has since used it for live fire training, bombing, amphibious landings, all kinds of things. They were originally supposed to return it at the end of World War II, but that never happened. They got started and they just never returned it. The story of the origins of the Hawaiians is told from Makua Valley. That is where Papa, the Earth Mother, and Wakea, the Sky Father, came together. And that's how the valley got its name, as Makua. People come for healing to that valley. Jan is the artist, the photographer who first came up with this idea, and we were exchanging ideas out at Makua, and we're both artists, and we said, wow, why don't we have an art show about Makua? Not only would it be educational, we would be stretched to use our creativity, but we could really involve a lot more people too. And in fact, all these artists have gone to Makua, if not before then, when they got involved with the show, and have been educated and done work, beautiful work on it.
Makua has been part of my backyard my whole life, growing up in Makaha, so that's where I'm from. And at first it was, something in the back of our mind with the bombs going off, and it was sort of like, something that it's like hearing somebody you love getting hurt, hearing somebody down the street getting beaten, hearing something, and so that was something that was very powerful for me when I was growing up. And as I became more aware of the responsibility that we have for our shared responsibility, everybody that lives here has a responsibility to this Aina, and every piece of land, every part of the land, every part of the island, it's like an organ, yeah? It's just like part of the human body. The stomach is important, the kidney is important, the esophagus is important, every single part of the body is important, just like the islands themselves. You cannot just cut out one part of the body and expect the rest of the body to be healthy. And so that's something that what Makua represents to me on many different levels. From a cultural perspective, the parents, a sense of responsibility to future generations. Everybody that lives here, everybody that comes to see this exhibit is responsible for the vision. And it's a shared vision. Even though we may have a small part of that vision, it's a shared vision. So the piece behind me is segmented into different areas, and it's a grid that actually uses petroglyphs as the grid itself. And so woven in that are the layers of humanity, the layers of history, the layers of stories that are in Makua.
My history with Makua goes back to the 60s when I used to go there and hike and play on the beach, swim in the waters. And I've been real involved with my own artwork with Wahipana, or sacred places in Koho'olawe and the islands. So I started going on access into Makua, and I was fortunate enough at one point to go into Koiahi, which is a small valley that's been off limits for many, many, many years because the military never cleaned it up. But I went one access day, and Fred said we were able to go there. So we had to put on flak jackets and helmets, and we went into Koiahi. In there, I saw like this beautiful tropical forest, and there was an ancient grove of sandalwood trees. So we got to see some of the very oldest untouched parts of the valley. But of course, putting on flak jackets and helmets, it's a military installation that's bombed out and destroyed. So my piece kind of evolved a little bit of thinking about the ancient times in Makua that was home for all the Hawaiians, and also what's happened to it now. It's used as a military training center. So the charcoal drawing is, of course, of the shells that are all over the ground out there, representing the ordnance and everything, and the natural beauty that was once there, kind of playing back and forth. And there's a lot when they do their military burns and the forests get destroyed and the grasses and everything, so the tree trunk is kind of burnt on one side and it's left natural on the other. It's just this desire to keep, we want to go back. It's probably one of the most beautiful places that I've ever seen anywhere that I've traveled or gone. And it's still beautiful from a distance is when you get into the valley and you see, you know, the military, you know, bunkers made with the tires and the ordnance and the bombed out areas and, you know, everything else goes on. It's still a beautiful valley. Sure, I like to paint pretty things, but I also like to do work that has a very strong, mana behind it to get people to think. I know that I can't change people's thinking, but if I can bring something forward that they can possibly maybe think about, you know, an alternate way that they normally do. I just, you know, I like to see it as a vehicle for dialogue. Once there's more awareness about, you know, any kind of an indigenous people, that it just brings a lot more information and help to them.